My name is Wayne Koestenbaum, and I am delighted to be the judge of this year's fourth genre multimedia essay contest. My primary commitment I consider to be as a poet and as a poet who writes essays and sometimes fiction. And then beyond, because I've done that a long time, I have branched out and I often do want to make movies more than I want to write. And that I think is because of the beautifully fierce and strict dimensions of time in a movie. That it's second by second, and that there are, I have a shot that I want to include and it's 5 seconds. And then I have a bit of sound and it's 4 seconds. So I need to cut a second from that kind of stuff is like when I first started writing poetry. Influenced by having grown up as a pianist and having a very tactile sense of finger rhythm, and that translating into typing, which
Mhm.
is how writing often happens, and translating also into my hearing of written language, which is a very and I'm not alone in this. It's but my first way of perceiving language is rhythmical and musical. And that kind of perception or drinking in of literature often is on a separate channel from the channel of sense, which
Mm.
makes me very comfortable both writing and reading literature that doesn't make traditional sense. It kind of doesn't bother me. I have been influenced, at least unconsciously, in my videos by Ryan Trecartin, Trecartin, a younger artist I wrote about in art form maybe a decade ago. And my essay on him is in this book, my 1980s and other essays. It's an essay called Situation Hacker. And his very sharply edited videos include palimpsests of layers of performers and visuals that create a dizzying, overwhelming rhythm of interruptions and non sequiturs to create a kind of alternative social space, as if you were hacking into situations. A situation could be a classroom, a dinner party, a relationship, a friendship, masculinity, behavior, the interview, school, whatever. Just and his layering seems to interrupt our normal perception of how things should be going. And new ways of behaving and being physical and mental with each other start to happen through that editing. So it's as if, I guess, to be more terse about this, he creates new forms of social relation through new forms of editing and new media technology. And I can feel that when I edit on Premiere Pro, the app that allows me to do a lot of layering in my video. I feel like I'm intervening in reality, like intervening with my own perceptual reality, taking like a video that I had made of this young man who came to my studio and he said, I said, say more kink per square inch 3 times. And the third time, look up at the ceiling. And he did it. And so I have that 15 seconds. And I then could layer it with images that I took with my camera walking home the other day from the studio and just like a lot of other stuff and create a heightened reality. Yes, I am very inspired by this younger filmmaker, Jatovia Gary, whose film, I think it's An Ecstatic Experience is the title, is a film about, I mean, it's about everything, but it's about African American suffering and African American resistance and resilience and the possibilities, I think, of ecstatic experience through religion and music and oratory that arise in suffering and subjugation and desubjectification and racist systems. but the technique of the film is that she has made scratches tangibly on the film itself so that she's like drawn on it. And there may be like, there's a moment, I think there's an actress, Ruby Dee, reciting some very painful lines about being enslaved. It's a historical personage. She's reciting these lines. It's very moving and very painful. And Chatovia Gary has incised these kind of radiating lines that go out from her head that look kind of like scarification or scars, but also like a halo, and that her witnessing of her experience and Ruby Dee's impersonation of it is sending out this magnetism, this energy, and that really inspired me. I mean, it's inevitably what speaks to me personally, emotionally, and technically. I guess I have, I mean, I'm objective. I'd like to think that I'm objective, but of course I'm not. I will, I don't, I do love the strange. I love things that seem like I've never seen before or heard before. New material, new voices, new arrangements, new experiences. But I'm just so curious to see to see what I will find. And I don't it it's very hard to be a judge, and I don't do it that often. First, it's hard to, I mean, there are so many submissions have virtues of different kinds, so that it's a matter of choosing which virtues do I wish to bring forward with the award. And which ones, usually it's that I make a kind of preliminary, when I judge something, I have the piles, I put things in of what I like the best and what I don't like quite as much. And then and I maybe come up with like two or three, I come up with a provisional decision, but then I let a little time pass. And then I find that there's one that keeps returning to me, and it may be one that's not even in the top pile, but it's one that I just can't forget. And I will go back, and what happens is I often then reread or revisit that one that is calling out to me, and I compare it to the one that I chose from my first reading, which is often the more technically accomplished one or something. And then I make a decision about, am I going to go with the one I can't forget, or am I going to go with the one that seemed the best the first time I went along? And it doesn't always work out that way, but there is often this kind of hangover of being haunted by something about one of the pieces. And it may not be, as I said, from the original finalists. I'll hold up Ultramarine. It's a book designed by Jeff Clark, who's I think the best designer of poetry books around. And so I'm thrilled with that. Published by Nightboat, and it's the third volume in what I call my trance trilogy. The first two volumes were the Pink Trance Notebooks and Camp Marmalade. And so I've been at work on this project for 10 years. So I feel a certain sense of fullness, catharsis, completion, fatigue. And I think when I said this morning, I got up and I made a 15-second video, I was happy that I was doing something that was 15 seconds long after working so long on this third volume, which is like 500 pages. They're easy pages. Look at how much space there is on the page. It's very friendly. You can just pick it up anywhere. And so that even though this is a long poem, its models were prose architectures, prose autobiographies composed piecemeal and in real time, and to some extent not for publication, not originally aimed for publication, but private notebooks, note taking, accounting. And so these books are my diary made public and made terse, and I hope made musical.